Emily had been on her feet since 5 in the morning. The scent of bacon and fresh coffee filled the diner, but all she could think about were the unpaid medical bills piling up at home and the eviction notice taped to her apartment door. It was another frigid morning in the small Ohio town, and yet she moved between tables with practiced grace, offering warm smiles to customers who never guessed the storm behind her eyes. In her late 20s, Emily had put dreams on hold, college, travel, even simple joy, all to care for her ailing mother, who was battling a chronic illness. Her days began before sunrise and ended well after dark, and every shift felt heavier than the last. But she never let it show. Her uniform was always clean, her hair tied back neatly, and her voice carried a gentle cheer that made regulars feel seen and valued. To Emily, kindness wasn't a choice, it was her way of staying human amid the hardship. She refilled coffee cups without being asked, remembered how customers liked their eggs, and took time to ask how their day was going. It didn't matter that she could barely afford her own groceries. She believed that being kind, even when life was unkind to her, mattered. And yet, beneath that tired smile was a young woman stretched thin, doing everything she could to hold it together, hoping quietly that someday, someone might notice her too. The midday lull had settled over the diner when the door creaked open and an elderly man stepped in, brushing snow from his coat. His name was Mr. Harris, a familiar face to the staff, but not a welcomed one. Known for his silence and stern demeanor, most servers quietly avoided his table. But not Emily. With the same gentle smile she gave every customer, Emily approached him. "Coffee to start?" she asked kindly. Mr. Harris nodded without a word. As she poured his cup, she noticed how tired and distant his eyes looked, like he was somewhere far away. As she brought him his meal, Emily hesitated. Something about his silence felt heavier today. Gently, she asked, "Everything all right, sir?" For a moment, Mr. Harris said nothing. Then, almost in a whisper, he replied, "Today was her birthday." Emily paused, unsure. "Your wife?" she asked softly. He nodded, his voice cracking as he explained that his wife had passed away years ago. They used to come to this diner every year on her birthday. Now, he came alone, same booth, same meal, just to feel close to her. Emily sat down beside him for a moment, her own heart aching. She didn't speak much, just listened. And in that silence, something shifted. For the first time, Mr. Harris smiled, faint and brief, but real. In that small act, being present, being kind, Emily unknowingly began to change not only his day, but the course of her own life. As the winter sun dipped below the horizon and the diner's last few customers trickled out, Emily began clearing tables. Mr. Harris was finishing his meal in silence, his plate nearly empty, the coffee long cold. He hadn't said much since sharing his story, but his eyes had softened, and there was a quiet peace about him now. Emily glanced at his bill. It wasn't much, but she knew what it symbolized to him: one more lonely birthday, one more memory without his wife. Without hesitation, she walked to the register and paid the bill herself. She scribbled a note on a napkin and tucked it under his coffee cup before walking away. The note read, "No one should be alone on a day that meant so much. I hope today felt a little less lonely. Emily." Mr. Harris found the note just as he reached for his wallet. He stared at it, blinking a few times before reading it again. His hand trembled slightly, and for the first time in years, he let a tear fall in public. There was no grand gesture, no dramatic moment, just one quiet act of kindness that touched his heart in a way he didn't expect. He didn't say a word to Emily. He simply stood up, folded the note carefully, and walked out into the cold, carrying a warmth that had nothing to do with the weather. What Emily didn't know then was that this simple gesture would soon return to her in the most unexpected and life-changing way. A few days had passed since that quiet moment in the diner when Emily received a letter at work, an official-looking envelope addressed to her in unfamiliar handwriting. Curious and slightly anxious, she opened it in the break room. Inside was a formal letter from a local attorney. It explained that Mr. Harris had passed away peacefully in his sleep just 2 days after his visit to the diner. Emily's heart sank at the news, her mind flashing back to his lonely eyes and trembling hands. But what came next left her completely speechless. Mr. Harris had left behind a small fortune, money saved over a lifetime with his late wife. In his will, he named Emily as the beneficiary of a significant portion of his estate. The letter stated clearly, "For the young woman who showed me kindness when I needed it most. For the warmth she gave on the coldest of days." Tears streamed down Emily's face as she sat there in shock. The amount was more than enough to pay off her debts, cover her mother's medical bills, and give her a fresh start, something she had only dreamed of during sleepless nights. But it wasn't the money that moved her most. It was the realization that one simple, selfless act, a note, a smile, a few minutes of listening, had made a difference so profound that it became someone's final wish. In that moment, Emily understood, kindness never truly disappears. It finds a way back, sometimes when you least expect it. 1 year later, the aroma of freshly baked bread drifted through the air of a cozy little bakery nestled on the same street where the old diner once stood. Behind the counter stood Emily, no longer wearing a diner uniform, but a flour-dusted apron and a beaming smile. Her life had transformed, not just financially, but emotionally. With Mr. Harris's gift, she had opened a place of her own, a bakery built on the same values that had guided her through every hardship: warmth, compassion, and community. Business was steady, but Emily never forgot where she came from. A small sign near the register read, "If you're hungry and can't pay today, your meal is on us, no questions asked." She often gave away food to struggling families and regularly slipped extra pastries into the bags of single moms, elderly neighbors, or anyone who looked like they needed a little hope. On this particular day, she noticed a young girl outside giving her only dollar to a homeless man seated on the curb. It reminded Emily so much of herself, not long ago, with nothing but the will to be kind. She stepped outside, handed the girl a warm cookie and a hug, and said, "Kindness comes back around. You'll see." As the sun poured through the bakery windows, Emily looked out with gratitude. Her story had come full circle, not because she sought reward, but because she chose kindness, even when the world gave her every reason not to. And that made all the difference.